All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Central Valley Business here on CentralValleyTalk.com. I'm Mike Scott. Hope you missed me last week. I was off exploring the world. Budapest and Amsterdam and Vancouver and Seattle and Los Angeles and all over the place. But I'm glad to be back in the Central Valley, and I'm glad it's not foggy today. And I'm glad my first guest when I get back is Derek Van Vleck. Going to talk about collections, capital collections. Sir, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
What is Capital Collections?
Capital Collections is a collection agency that opened up close to 20 years ago, and I've been affiliated with them from just about the start. Been the sales manager for about 17 years. When we first opened up Capital Collections, there were about 23 different agencies in town doing collections. Now there's only about 4 or 5 viable agencies.
What happened to the others?
Well,
I would think there'd be more people that owe stuff today.
Well, there is, but I don't want to paint a picture of rose-colored glasses. Collections is not easy. And how you make your money, especially us, is based upon production. We make our money by taking a percentage of the money that we collect for the individuals that turn accounts over to us. So it's hard. It's pretty arduous. It's not an easy profession, but we're very litigious in what we do. If we find a tangible asset, we'll advance the fees, go after the individuals. You can ask Fresno County Superior Court, who files some of the most suits in town. It is our agency. Once we find a tangible asset, if they're unwilling to pay, we'll go after them.
You put a lien on their paycheck or whatever? Or?
Well, it's what's called an earnings withholding order, and those are all done through the Sheriff's Department. You have to open up a levy, but that's after you get a judgment, after the courts say, yes, the debt's valid, and you can pursue it from there.
Yeah. I take it most people aren't happy to see you when you come knocking at the door, right?
Not really. And I'm also the registered process server for the agency, so I also deliver some of the summonses on the other side.
Yeah. If you rack up a debt, though, you should pay it back.
Exactly,
right?
And that's kind of what our mindset is. Our clients have advanced either through a loan or some types of goods or services, a benefit to the individual, and they've refused to pay. You know, when it first comes to us, we try and get the individual to work with us, and get a willingness to pay. If there's no willingness to pay, like I said, and we find a tangible asset, we will come out of pocket and advance the court costs and the attorney's fees to file suit. So when we
that's a risk on your part, isn't it?
It is, but our collectors are very, very thorough in finding tangible assets. When we advance those fees, it's based upon a tangible asset that the collector has found, i.e. maybe they're gainfully employed, maybe they own property. Maybe
people try to hide their assets, don't they?
They completely do, but we have a couple of bulldogs in our office that are really, really good.
You have a dog, the bounty hunter guy? That's how I picture collections guys. And you have a suit on. So.
Yes, sir. No, they don't really allow us to go out and collect that way. Bang on the door, say, here, give us the money.
As much as you'd like to do it that way, right?
Sometimes, yes. But, there is a lot of reward. We have a vast array of clients, everything from doctors, chiropractors, bail bond companies. We also do collections for City of Clovis for their false alarm calls for service. We do the same for City of Fresno. We also do the billing for it, and we've been fortunate enough that they've liked our work that we've been able to expand even more, and we do their collections on board ups for contract labor, things of those natures. So it's what makes it interesting, and you were talking about the attrition, the loss of other collection agencies, that's what helps us, is we're kind of broad-based. We're not pigeonholed into one type of collections. Like I just stated, some of the various types of clients that we have. It enables us to learn their business, but then when one industry drops, say the medical profession, especially with some of the new laws coming in, it makes collections a little bit harder. And you have to be an agency that is very, very compliant with the Fair Debt and Collection Practices Act, Fair Credit Reporting Act, and in dealing with third-party information, especially on the medical side, HIPAA and HIPAA High-Tech.
Right.
So you have to have an agency that's educated, that's not going to put you as a client at risk by violating the law in some way.
I'm guessing most of the people you deal with don't have a lot of money to begin with.
No, and we are really, really willing to, especially when it first starts, if they're amicable in dealing with this, we're willing to work out a payment schedule. Because again, they've received something in the way of benefit of services or goods, something of that nature, that they haven't paid for. So it's not just money owed out of thin air, so there's a reason for it. So
okay, but they made a choice at some point not to pay that bill.
Absolutely.
And now you're saying to them, it's time to pay.
Well, and we understand sometimes at that point, because we are also affiliated with the largest tenant landlord firm in the Valley. So we're also very familiar with tenant landlord collections. And a lot of times when those debts arrive, it's because they've lost their job or something of that nature. And we understand that. No, collections is not easy. It's trying to get them to willingly pay. So if they don't have a tangible asset, yes, it's tough. We still try and work with them. And for the benefit of our client, if we don't get payment or they refuse to pay, we'll credit report, and then it'll show up on their credit. So hopefully at some time when they try and get things rectified in their life, it'll pop up and they'll want to call us and help clean it up and help get us, our client, their money.
Well, speaking of the credit report,
yes, sir.
If they do take care of this bill,
yes,
does it get wiped off their credit report eventually?
It'll be satisfied, yes, sir. Yeah.
You promise?
Yes, sir.
Stuff sticks around on credit reports sometimes for a long time.
It really, really does. It really does. A lot of it falls off after 7 years, and we've had existing judgments are good for 10 years. And before
so even if they pay, it's 10 years before it drops off?
No, the judgment is good for 10 years.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
The credit reporting will fall off after 7 years.
After 7.
But what we try and do is you can renew the judgment for another 10 years, but what we try and do is renew it at 7 years so it stays on the credit report. So you have to kind of play the game.
Mm-hmm.
The judgments are what's issued by the court, which allow us to go after that tangible asset.
Right.
So we try and, in various ways, compel them to pay. But we do everything above board and as the law states.
Okay. How long from the time you get one of these till you actually collect? Is there an average? Is it months, years?
It's really, really dependent upon the type of debt. If you're talking about commercial debt where it's business to business, those are a little bit easier to pursue because you're talking to somebody that's still working, and so they're more apt to start making payments right away. Or even if we litigate, there's a good tangible asset there. But if you're talking an individual through tenant landlord who may be on Section 8 or something of that nature who doesn't really have a lot of tangible assets, it could take quite a while. Now, I'll give you for instance, though, 2 years around Christmas, this is part of what I like about our job. A lady had turned over an existing labor board judgment. Okay, she had a judgment against her former employer.
Okay.
And, it's hard. Life was hard for her, squeaking by. And it took us about 6 years of following this individual through bankruptcy filings and stuff of that nature. And we were finally able to collect on it. When we collected on it, she had already moved. So I had spent 2.5, 3 weeks having our collectors trying to find where she's at. I was able to locate her, and 3 days before Christmas, we took her a check for $3,000. You want to talk about somebody that was just almost crying.
You were so Santa Claus for her, yeah.
Well, our agency was. I was just the delivery boy.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. That's nice. All right. So, I guess, how can folks reach you? How can they find out more about you? Do you have a website, Facebook,
yes, we do.
Twitter?
Yes, website, www.capitalcollectionsfresno.com. It gives a complete overview of our agency and our affiliated agencies. They can reach me at 559-485-2127 or Derek@srhcc.com.
All right. Well, interesting stuff today, Derek. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, and we'll be back with more on Central Valley Talk.